Doubts were there from day one. Will the children go in school? Will they walk back home? Now I'm responsible for all these lives in the classroom. That was hard.
This is Twesigye Jackson Kaguri, a CNN hero and the founder of Nyaka, a non-profit that supports children orphaned by HIV/AIDS. In today's episode, he takes us back to where it all began.
At the time I was married to the Rhonda Montgomery, we had agreed that we would use our $5,000 we had saved to build a school for children who were orphaned, mostly because of HIV/AIDS.
Jackson returned to Uganda in 2001 and asked his father for land.
And surprise, my typical father reaction, he goes, "Why? Why would I give you land to build a school?" And my dad refused, said, "No way." So when he refused to do that, I said, "Okay, then sell it to me." Like, now you are talking.
Jackson also recalls the first donations he received.
I told Kevin, I'm going to build a school. And he turned around, he was driving and said, "You are kidding, right? People don't go around building schools, Jackson." And then he reached out in his jeans and pulled out 32 cents and said, "Here, if you want a contribution, there is your contribution."
What was it like that first day where they're walking through those doors?
Oh, I can see it as if it was yesterday. Hello, everybody. Welcome to TJK Shares. This is a place we promised you many years ago that we bring you ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Usually, I'm the person who is sitting on the other side, interviewing those ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Today, ladies and gentlemen, the tables have been turned. Somebody said I've done something extraordinary, and so they are going to talk about that extraordinary thing. Welcome to Matt Stubble Abasa, who is going to be speaking with me today on a topic that is dear to both our hearts, a topic and something we've done together for many, many years. And many of you around the world will also associate and know how this has touched all our lives. So here we go. Matt Stubble, sir, over to you.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me. It's an honor to interview you and ask you questions and hear stories about your experience with Nyaka. The theme today is going through the past 25 years, because this year we're celebrating Nyaka's 25th anniversary. And it's just incredible what you've accomplished and the teams and community you've assembled to continue to build and grow Nyaka. Usually we start with hearing about your story, because Nyaka really starts at birth for you and your whole upbringing. But for today, to really focus on these past 25 years, we're going to jump from your upbringing in Uganda all the way up to 2001, where Nyaka actually started. So there are other episodes and other videos where you talk more about your upbringing in Uganda, and I'm sure some of that will be mentioned in the stories today. But let's start off by jumping all the way to 2001. Where were you? What happened? What initially caused you to start Nyaka?
Wow. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are 25 years old this year or younger, we are going to feel older for you. My name is Twesigye Jackson Kaguri. I am honored, Matt, to be having this conversation. 2001, we'll start with August 2nd of 2001, which is the time I went to Nyaka village, a place where I was born and raised, and started a negotiation with my father, Eric Kaguri, still alive, asking him to give us land because we were going to build a school for children who are orphaned because of HIV/AIDS. So that morning, woke up, typical, I would walk around, run around, exercise. I come all puffing and huffing. He's coming from his cows, milking cows. And I said, you know, that side of land near the neighbor, I would like to use it to build a school for children who are orphaned because of HIV/AIDS. And surprise, surprise, my typical father reaction, he goes, why? Why would I give you land to build a school? There are governments do schools and rich people do schools. Why are you doing this? And explained to him the vision. And when I say we, at the time I was married to Nicholas's mother, Beronda Montgomery. We had agreed before I left Indiana on that trip that we would use our 5,000 US dollars we had saved to build a school for children who are orphaned, mostly because of HIV/AIDS. So, ladies and gentlemen, your question I have right now is what I was doing. I was in negotiations. Kind of think of the Bible when the prodigal son asked the father to get inheritance, and my dad refused. Said no way. So when he refused to do that, I said, okay, then sell it to me. Like, now you are talking. I will sell it to you, but I don't like this idea. You have to remember, ladies and gentlemen, that my father at the time had already lost two children due to HIV and AIDS. My oldest brother, Frank, had passed away in 1996. My oldest sister, Mbabazi, had passed away in 1997. So in his mind, when I introduced this idea, he's thinking, I've already lost to death two children. Now I'm about to lose another son to a community. I'm not going to get my stipend. I'm not going to be taken care of. My son now wants to take all his money and give it to the community. So in a way, he also had fears he cannot explain to his son, because in our community, your child is always a child. And that's where the fear was coming from. But he went through and sold us land, and that's where Nyaka Primary School still sits today, 25 years later.
Wow. And during that time, what were you seeing in your home village and then within your own family that really stimulated you saying, I need to do something about this?
So during that time, for those of you who were alive at that time, you will understand that's when HIV/AIDS rates were the highest. At the time, there were 2 million children orphaned because of HIV/AIDS. In those days, many people who were dying in the cities. Kampala, Mbarara, Jinja, and my brother died in Jinja. So what was happening? A man is working, the wife is not working, man dies of HIV/AIDS, a truck will bring the dead body and the children and the wife. After burial, the wife and the children were left in the village. Remember, these are boys and girls who were born in the city, spoke English, didn't live in the village. They only came to villages to visit their grandparents. They were that segment of people who were left with a grandmother who can't even speak a word in English. The wife can't stand the village life, maybe run away. So we had many grandmothers who were raising children after they had raised their own children. Now they are raising grandchildren. And I will use some specific examples because now, 25 years later, you can point at these men and who were boys at the time. Here, a next door neighbor with grandmother Deborah, whose father had passed away because of HIV/AIDS. Hilary and his sister were living with this grandmother right next door. So these women also, Matt, knew me. I grew up in this village. They carried me as a baby. You read my book, A School for My Village, you will realize at 9 years old, I fell from a tree. And the woman who carried me first on the scene, Mantrida, lives next door to me. Later, I took her to Toronto, so I think I paid my wages. The teacher who taught me in primary school, Freda Biaburachiria, had retired as a teacher. And these women now were raising children whose parents were my age mates, but now they had passed away. Hilary's father was my age mate. grandmother Mantrida's children, Tugume, who I grew up with, had died and left children there. The grandmothers knew I had got education, I had gone to America. And to whom much is given, much is expected. I didn't have much, but they knew I had education. And they would come asking me, Jackson, since you have had education, please help me with the pencil so my child can go back to school. Please buy me a book. I would buy books and cut them. And this is something I had learned from my older brother. Whenever he came to the village, he had pencils and pens and he would give kids. Each time he gave 10, 20 showed up the next day and it became the same thing. Lines would form around my parents' house where I lived. And these grandmothers, all they wanted, not give me a gift, not my birthday is coming, not I am hungry. Please help me send my children to school, which is the same cry my brother made as he was dying. Please take care of my children so they can go to school. So I was number one, fulfilling my brother's wish. Number two, giving back to the community that made me the man I was at that time and the man I am today.
Beautiful. And when you first got the land and you had the vision to build a school, what were the next steps, and who were the first few people that you immediately went to and started this team effort?
So the book I mentioned earlier, A School for My Village, actually was published first as The Price of Stones. So ladies and gentlemen, the young ones who are 14 years old, who were born when Nyaka was already there, when I started this conversation, my dad has agreed, neighbors have come, we've written an agreement, land is there. I told the few people around, and they are still the same neighbors, but this we are going to do together. That's why the organization is named Nyaka. I did not want the Twesigye Jackson Kaguri Foundation for Orphans. I did not want Uganda orphans, whatever. I wanted the community to own it. Nyaka is half of Nyaka. Nyaka is the village where I was born and raised. So I went door to door to neighbors. Next door, here was Mantrida's oldest son, Tibihika Silver, aka Ruvigiza. The first picture you will see that we will show you here is Mantrida's grandchildren, Silver's children, Gavino, Franca, God from Enengo, Kemilembi's brother who passed away, may he rest in peace. Kambamu, the guy I knew who was from the same clan and he was a builder. I gathered these people, we went with shovels and started digging without a plan. We dug the foundation. I told community members, bring what you can. If you are passing by, drop a stone. If you have a tree, give us a branch. If you have labor, come by. That time, they were asking me questions about Bill Clinton. I think he was the president in 2001. Tell us about America. And I said, come on, grab a shovel, let's dig, and I will tell you all about America. So conversations turned into labor, turned into everyone pinching in, and that's how we dug up the first classroom. And brick by brick, stone by stone, which is where the scripture in Psalms that say the stone that was rejected became the cornerstone. That's the title, The Price of Stones. Basically, everybody contributed a stone, a brick to make it happen. And the two classrooms were elected right there on the land that we had built. And you will see that chronology from the first brick, first stones, to the first visitor, Jennifer out of New York, who was a classmate of ours at Columbia University. When she heard that we were doing this, she traveled to Uganda. Promise Ambrose, Sam Mugisha traveled with her to Nyaka, and you can see her standing there with 5 children: Hillary, Brenda, Shira and somebody I can't remember, even Hillary's sister also, gathered with sticks, wondering, am I going to build a mansion here? What am I doing? And when I told them it was a school and they could come to the school, the joy and loud noises they made was so outrageous, the village started gathering. And then I went house to house around, telling the grandmothers around that, look, we have something we are putting together, and your grandchildren can have free education for once. And majority didn't believe it, but Hillary's grandmother looked me in the eye and said, once this is done, I can die a happy woman because my grandchildren will get a place to go to school. And she went and asked somebody to write it down, and she put her finger on it because she can't read and write, and handed me a note, which was like a testament, but also a gift we call bequest, saying, when I die, my 2 acres and one goat need to go to my grandchildren, and now I'm going to die a happy woman, knowing they are in good hands.
And
That is it.
and now Hillary, her grandson she raised, is a doctor, and she's happy woman, but has not passed yet, right? How old is she?
Estimated 116, 116, 117. Still gets up and walks around. And I was about to say that story is in a school for my village, page 115 on the bottom. Hillary, when he graduated medical school, I gave him that note that grandmother had given me as a testament, which is a gift of graduation for him.
Wow. And so from the pictures, it looks like there's almost 2 years of building from 2001 to 2003 before the first students entered. During that process building, were there other funds that to go into it? Did the original 5,000 cover that? Are there any stories or hurdles during that 2 years of building the first two school rooms?
That was hard. It took us 2 years to build 2 classrooms just to put bricks and put a roof over that. 2 whole years. It was hard. I was already living here in the United States. At the time, we were living in California. And I remember telling a man, Dale Val, still alive. He was working at Carnegie, which later was acquired by Monsanto. We are going to play football. I told Dale, look, I'm trying to build a school in my village for orphans, and he's Australian. Hey, mate, that's impossible. That work is done by governments. How can you do that, mate? But I will help you if you want really and go through it. So Dale started asking me every Sunday when we were going to play soccer how we are doing and started contributing slowly. But Kevin Oramio, who was now teaching in China, was teaching at Woodland High School in Woodland, California, near Sacramento. We were volunteering together at a program for young people. I've always really had a thing for young people. And when we are going to that program, CASA, it's called CASA, Court Appointed something advocates, special advocates. I told Kevin, look, Kevin, I'm going to build a school. Remember, he's a teacher. And he turned around, he was driving and said, you are kidding, right? People don't go around building schools, Jackson. And then he reached out in his jeans and pulled out 32 cents and said, here, if you want a contribution, there is your contribution. For him, it's joking. And I looked at the man and said, ha ha, this will buy us at least 5 bricks. Thank you, man. And so those two people were the original. Of course, me and Beronda had already put out $5,000. And that started asking questions and talking about it. And I can tell you, Matt, I was 2001. Anybody who has met me for more than 10 minutes since then has heard about Nyaka. That's how I have been able to grow this and recruit so many people and employ so many people and change so many lives. Because I took it to heart and I decided I will share it with anybody who will want to listen to it. So contributions came in slowly, but then we moved from California to Indiana, which is where really registration happened. And people started telling me, if you really want to raise money to build something, you better register as a non-profit organization. That way, people who give you money can also deduct it on their taxes. I'm going, what's that? Pa, 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 pa. Internet, I was a slow use of internet typing with one finger like this, researched and found out and registered in Indiana. So Nyaka was registered originally as Scientific Technology and Science Transfer because we are trying to meet the Rwanda's academic, which was biochemistry and plant science, and also school. So I told her, you deal with the science part, I will deal with building a school. Then we changed the organization to Nyaka to this day.
Wow. And so then in 2003, the first children enter the school. Let's start with how those first 50, I think it was, students were chosen. About how old were they, and what was it like that first day where they're walking through those doors?
Oh, oh, I can see it as if it was yesterday. So here we are. Jackson came from America and now has bought land from his dad and wants to build this school. And people in the village have mixed feelings. Is it really possible for one person to do this? Does he want a political office and he's just disguising himself into building a school? What's happening? One Dennis will tell you, was a young boy who's now grown up man with his own children, working within a Nyaka organization. He was working as a houseboy at one of the well-to-do families in the village. I told him not to say names because those people are still alive and their children are here, but he knows I know and the community knows where he was working. So we did a needs assessment. Now I call them actually asset assessment. We went to look at what is in front of us, what capacity is there. And now I know what I didn't know then, that some of these students were actually already older in higher classes, but struggling to pay. Some who had already been sent home. So when Nyaka started the pioneer class, the students were older, but they came back and started in P1 and P2. We started with 2 classrooms. The needs assessment showed that in Kanungu, there are more than 5,000 eligible students who could come to our schools, covering a distance of like 3 counties in the United States. It takes you a whole day to walk from where I grew up, the house, to get to Mpungu on the border with Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. 5,000, we needed only 56 for 2 classrooms. We are targeting 60 because we wanted to keep classrooms small. Now what do? There are so many, and I am glad to this day, I am not the person who makes a decision who comes to Nyaka, who doesn't. The community, as you know it and as you've seen it, formed a committee of management. Still today, we have a management committee on the ground that make those decisions. They started looking at children nearby who can walk to school, who are eligible. Eligibility was the poorest of the poor. If you are living in a household and you have 3 goats and a chicken, and there is another household that doesn't have a chicken at all, then no chicken at all came. And you have 2 goats. We worked with your guardian to guide them on how they can multiply those chickens and eventually have something for their school. So we chose the poorest of the poor. The kids who started, mostly were from nearby where they can walk. But that's also how grandmother program started, the ones who are coming from so far away. I walked in the community and asked these amazing women to house these children without being related to them. And again, the community work, the heart of this organization and success has been community. We are in this together. Let's develop it together. To that extent, Matt, some of the children who were in need nearby, community understood and said, you know what? Yes, I'm also struggling, but the other one is struggling worse than mine. Let them have the space. And we have continued to stay that until we started having some kids pay. It had always been the poorest of the poor. But the kids were older because some of them went and repeated. And I know Dennis and Hilary were some of those who were already older. Brenda out of Nyaka offices, Shira, who is in Canada right now. Those are the pioneer classes. Isidore Mugisha, who works at Masindi Inn, Kabalega Inn. Some of these kids were older. That's the pioneer class. So the pioneer were P2 and P1 were the ones who studied. The Rita Chandas were the P, P1, and then the P2s were the ones who were pioneers.
All right. Well, while you're in that mindset of 2003, the doors are just opening. You're like, we did it. We built this school. The kids are now going to have education. What would Jackson 25 years ago on that day, what would be his vision for 25 years from then? If I were to ask you then, what's this going to look like in 2026?
If you had asked me that time, I would have told you the commitment is to put these kids through 3 levels of education, then let them go and fend for themselves and the community to find where they will continue. A plan was really to get them a jump start. Instead of giving pencils and pens, let's have them in one class. Hire my former teacher, Freda Biavrachidia, who is like a second mother to me. She's still alive. I would have said, no, we are just going to get this building done, and if donations come in, we'll make sure they finish 3 levels and we let them go. That would have been my answer. On the opening of that school, though, I invited a distant uncle of mine, Professor Mondo Kagonyana, who was at the time a minister in the government of His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni. He was a cabinet minister. And I reached out and said, Uncle, this man was one of our biggest models growing up. He grew up very poor. His dad died way early. He used to sleep without blankets. So he would put a mat made by banana fibers and put on top, instead of blanket, another mat to sleep. But he beat every odds of poverty, went to veterinary medicine in Makerere University, went to UC Davis, California, and got a PhD in veterinary medicine. By the time I was born, he was a professor. And then, like luck has it, we would get spanked. You need to be like Professor Mondo. You need to work hard like Professor Mondo. So I grew up, he's a distant relative from my mom's side. And when I built this, I said, Uncle, you know the value of education. You knew about the passing of my brother Frank and your niece also, Mbabazi. I am putting together a school. I would like you to come and launch the school. Impart that resilience and hard work. Focus our village to get to support this idea. So beginning there, I started saying, maybe we can go up to P7. So I invite and we tell everybody in the village, we are going to have Professor Mondo come launch the school. Remember, it is a building with bricks, bare bricks. There are no window shutters. There is no cement. It's just a building with a roof on it, dusty. A neighbor of ours looks at it and heard that I had invited the minister. He goes, huh? There's no way government minister will come to open that shack of a school right there. Jackson just praying. Don't even go there and gather for nothing. But I had also invited Val, my friend from California, from Australia, to come with me on that day. So number one, there is a Muzungu in the community. There had never been a Muzungu that people can reach and touch. We had seen Italian priests when we were growing up, but you can't touch a priest. They are there, you are there. So Dale comes, sleeps in the same house with me. My dad is bragging to people, for me, I have a white man who pooped in my toilet. For me, I am way better than anybody in the community. Remember, this is the man who refused to give us land. Now he's mayor of the set. So Dale is there. I am there. People are saying there's no way minister will come at exactly noon time. The Pajero 4-wheel drive, white, pulls up, bam, and Professor Mondo shows up. The people who had refused to come start running. Oh my God, there is a minister. He comes out of the car, he greets me, Jackson, good job. I'm so glad to be here. My mother was still alive. Went and sat with my mother and asked her, I want some roasted meat. They right like when they were a child, we sat down next to her, they started talking. We are preparing. We put Sempa was there. Sempa, who you know, my friend Sempa Sam Mugisha was there. These were the people who carried money. We used to send money to Uganda. Leave our own Wave and Waze, these apps, we would send it by Western Union. Go to Walmart, fill up the paper. Western Union sends it, gives you a number, then you find a way to get that number to send. Sempa sends Sam Mugisha to meet my sister Christine. Promise, who was already working in finance, now is a commissioner and minister of finance, would help facilitate transport on the bus. That's how that building was put up. So we opened. We around noon on January 2nd, 2003. That thing is there on the building. Professor Mondo Kagonyara came. We launched. People sang. Kids sang. The girl who was a baby like 3 year old who carried that flower patience to Professor Mondo. She's now a grown-up woman, graduated, has her own degree, and is a mother herself. So this has been really a labor of love, Matt. I look back and say, it's just God that made this happen. There is no human being who can do this work and do it and gather so many people around the world to put in the hands to make it happen.
Wow. And so after the doors open, the students are starting to learn, the teacher's there. You're kind of on a high. We did it. What's a moment that comes to mind within that first year where you're like, whoa, we need this other thing, we need more, or this problem just happened, or maybe you felt overwhelmed, or what did I get myself into? What comes to mind in that first year?
That's a very good question. And people have asked me this many, many times. So watch this episode, subscribe, share, because this is the question so many people who are starting organizations have asked me. Doubts were there from day one. Will the children go in school? Will they walk back home? Now I'm responsible for all these lives in the classroom. But what I never anticipated, remember, many of the children were orphaned as a result of HIV/AIDS. I didn't anticipate we were going to have children who are HIV positive. I knew several adults, friends of mine, who were living with HIV/AIDS. For some reason, it didn't occur to me that children who are born with HIV/AIDS were among the ones we had enrolled in school. And I should have known better because when my sister died, she left her son, who was called Gaddafi, and Gaddafi was HIV positive and died around 4 years old. Gaddafi would have been the same age as Michael, my nephew. So when I'm graduating from Makerere University, I'm holding Michael here and Gaddafi here as babies, graduating from Makerere University. And now he would have been Michael's doing a PhD, he's married, he's about to have a baby. By the time this comes out, he might already be a father. But I should have known then. It just didn't occur to me. So the children have started school. I've gotten on a plane with Dale Val. We are back in the United States. We are all excited, sending to church members, to Rotary clubs. Yeah, we opened a small school. I got to learn what a newsletter is those days by people advising me, but I also took classes at Indiana University in fundraising, in management. So would write a letter with our logo, which was like a small house, orange with the two kids in the classroom in a roof. That logo still sits on Nyaka Primary School on one of the walls. And then the headmistress, Freda Vyabrachiria, who had come out of retirement to help me, not even help the community, say, I can do that just for you, my son. And I wanted an older woman, number one, to love first and foremost and care for the children. Then we hired Agava Innocent, the husband of Lydia Agava, to be like an assistant teacher. He didn't have teacher qualifications, but he was willing, he was going to our church to work with Freda. I got a communication from Freda. Jackson, your children are sick. They are sleeping by 1 p.m. They are energetic. They are dehydrated. I don't know what to do. How am I going to teach children who are about to die in a classroom? Said, have you talked to the management committee? We don't know what to do. We need ideas from you. Remember that time there were no phones, no cell phone, no reception in that village. Even the road that takes you from the main church Zituni to Nyaka was impassable. To go to my house, you would go all the way across where Beatrice comes from, come from that side. If the road is broken, leave the car there, walk to the house. So this highway called the Nyaka Highway now was not there. So I told Fred, what do you want to do? Said, we need to give them food. Said, I have no money for food. I'm trying to get your salary, to get the books and uniforms for these kids. We don't have no money. And she said, I talked to the community leaders, and they said we can just dig up the soccer field, the compound, and grow some vegetables and help kids so we can make soup at school. Said, perfect solution. Local solution to solve a local problem. And Matt, I know you're going to go into all this. We're going to have this conversation on how it evolved, but that was the beginning to realize that local people have local solutions for the problems they face. In development, the question we need to ask is, how can I be of help? Not, oh, I have a PhD from Stanford and from Harvard. I know what you need. I'll come give it to you. Nyaka has been locally led, locally focused. Obstacles have come. Local people have come up with solutions. With the help we extend, they solve them. And that's why you have what you have now.
Beautiful. And that sounds like the first step of not just the local solutions, but the holistic approach. So over the next, 2008 was the first graduation. So that's after 5 years of the first pioneer students being in school. So in those first 5 years, what got added on to the first school to address all the issues that the children were facing, that where Nyaka provided solutions to help them learn, grow, and thrive?
Wonderful. So chronologically, some of them I might miss the exact chronology, but that was the solution for food ended up attracting volunteers. While we are building one classroom at a time, I also said to the community, I can't do this alone. already Daryl had come and visited and stayed with my parents. Then there was Lucy Stiners, who was working on behalf of Stephen Lewis Foundation, who went to Uganda to look at organizations Stephen Lewis Foundation can fund. Stephen Lewis Foundation was the first foundation to give us money. So Lucy gets to Kampala and tells Ilana, a good friend of mine to this day, that this place called Nyaka is so far away. It's going to take me a whole day to go, spend a night there, see the program another day, then a third day to come back. Ilana goes, don't do it. That is way too far. We don't have all those days. Lucy, bless her heart. Thank you, Lucy. She tells Ilana, I have already committed and told Jackson I'm going to do it. So please, Ilana, let me go. She got a car that Sam organized for her and a driver. Went. There's nowhere to stay. There was no single motel or hotel in that area. So she was stuck in my bedroom at my parents' small house. Don't look at the house that is there now. Think that was the house. I had out of Columbia University. I had built them a small house with the blue doors. Lucy went and stayed with my parents. They don't speak English. This is a woman out, a professor with a PhD, and water has to be boiled and it's dark. She has to go to the toilet outside, and she stayed and met the children, met Freda, and she wrote a report to Ilana when she was done. If there is any one organization you choose to fund, let it be Nyaka. And to this day, Stephen was still funding us. But chronologically now, the building of classrooms is happening. And because of Lucy's experience, I said to the local people, I had started building a house for me where I grew up, where our house sat. So I told my father, since he had sold me, when he sold, he didn't sell me only the piece that we built Nyaka on. He sold me the entire land. So that whole place where my father lives is my place. He sold it to me. So I extended the school where I had put. Remember where the toilet is before you get to the. So I purchased the entire land, including where the house is now. My father sold everything. I just gave him an exchange small place to put a farm. So where the toilet is, before you get to the guest house, was the original boundary of what I had designated for Nyaka. But then where the guest house is, I was going to put my personal house there, and my parents will stay up near where the house is right now. So I donated that extra, which has the guest house, the kitchen of the guest house, and the multi-purpose building. That was an additional land. So the toilet is in the middle, and people always go, why did they put the toilet here? It was at the edge of the land for staff members. But after we added on, it stayed there because we clean it. It is not a smelling toilet. So the guest house was built to make sure that volunteers who come from outside Uganda or from Kampala can stay. The purpose of volunteers, for those of you in the United States, you understand volunteerism. People in Uganda didn't understand it as much. I knew Nyaka is so far away from many people. I can speak about it. I can tell the stories about it. I've written about it. But when Matt Stubble goes and sees it and spends time with the children, he now becomes an ambassador. And Matt Stubble is here because Jenna Simon and Barry Siegel went and visited and came and told Matt about it. So we have built big trees with big branches where one person got involved, came back. People always asked me, I would like to write a check of 1,500. Instead of buying a ticket to go to Uganda, I rather give you the check so you can solve problems of children. And I say, no, 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 no. Please go. Why? I want you to become an ambassador. I want you to be the spokesperson. I want you to see it yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, you can read as much as you want. When you sit there, see the children, how they smile, how they play their games during break time, their uniforms so clean, yet they walk in dust. They sleep in houses that leak all night when it rains, but they make sure that uniform is clean. Their books, when it rains, they put it in the polythene paper and carry it, sacrifice their bodies to be wet, but not the notebook. Then you understand the value of education. Then you understand how people appreciate the sacrifice we are all making. The dollar you send there is put in the hands of people who value it and who anticipate to make a difference in the world again. So we built a guest house during that period before graduation. We put cabinets of medication in each school. Now that I realized some children were born with HIV/AIDS and were in our schools, and most of them, you know them, you've seen them, they've graduated. I don't want to name names. We have children now who were born with HIV/AIDS. Because we provided medication, they are able to take medication, just like Magic Johnson takes medication. Now they are married, they have children, and the children don't have HIV/AIDS. Miracle. So we put those cabinets of medication, charge the science teachers. Now we have also hired Lydia, the wife of Agaba. Now we have a couple, and by the way, that couple had the firstborn. Their firstborn is now an engineer, graduated, Comfort. She has gone to Japan to represent Nyaka. Amazing. Now she's a politician, speaker of district in Kanungu. So we have also even changed the political scene. So we put those cabinets, kids took their medication. As a result of those cabinets, we now have a full functioning clinic. Nyaka Drayton Clinic, which was built by our amazing friend out of UK in honor of her mother, Mammy Drayton. Thank you for that. The farm, the little digging we did in front of the guest house, brought in volunteers from Aspen. Carol Old, who's spent so much time going to Uganda teaching with her husband, brought in a young man out of Aspen who taught children how to grow food with a goat powering in, and eventually Torre Dito out of Maine, still involved today, helped us secure money to buy a 14-acre farm to grow food. That's where the library sits. Now we have solved education, we have solved food issue, we have solved health care, and because of distances also and requiring this management committee to sit, I walked house by house asking grandmothers to house children so they can come to school in the morning with a clean uniform. And the grandmothers accepted to house children, and we formed groups of grandmothers. Now we have housing instead of orphanage, building resilient community that supports each other with the child as a central part. And these grandmothers ended up in economic development, in revolving funds, and now they have a job. So when you think of human rights, every human being must have 5 basic needs. Education, Nyaka gave it. Healthcare, Nyaka did it with a clinic. Food, eat something before you sleep. Employment, and housing. 5 basic needs from a village that didn't even have clean water. In there, we built a clean water system so children can drink water and bathe and take a shower. We started providing sanitary products for our teenage girls. Remember, I told you some were older when they came. By P4, P5, they're in their periods. And I'm going, what? How did she get in a period that young? Oh, by the way, she started late because she didn't have where to go. The Brendas, the Salas, the Olivias started getting the sanitary products. Now we have sex education, we have extracurricular activities, and kids are healthy and thriving and smiling. But something also changed, Matt, the trajectory of Nyaka. In July 28th, 2003, President Bush, younger Bush, went to Uganda to visit the country. While he was there, a man from our Bloomington church, that's how far I know Chris Law. Chris Law and I were going to church in Bloomington together. The man who is called Terry Self was a publisher and knew a journalist at Bloomington Herald newspaper. Terry Self says to me that on Sabbath, Jackson, President Bush was in your country today, and I saw in the news he was meeting people with HIV/AIDS, a program in Uganda called TASO. I think a newspaper would run a story tying Uganda, HIV/AIDS, and the school we put together at our church is sponsoring. Can I talk to the journalist about it? I'm like, sure. Nicholas was 1 year and a half, I think. I'm home and trying to research this. Where do I get funding? A journalist calls me. I want to come to your townhouse, 728 17th Street in Bloomington, near IU Stadium, man. IU that just won straight championship without losing a single football game. Go Hoosiers. The journalist comes to my house, takes a picture of me and Nicholas seated on my lap, interviews me about Nyaka, said, I will see what my editors say. Next day, asked me pictures, since Matt, you handle all our media pictures. That time we would take them with the camera. So I had the album, I showed him the album. They already had digital cameras, but big ones. So he took pictures of some of the pictures we had taken on opening of the school. Next day, Bloomington Herald Times had me on the front page of the paper. Local man gives back to his community and tied it into President George W. Bush, who was in Uganda. That opened a reverend out of Bloomington. After that happened, I went and bought like 20 pages, 20 papers. People were wondering, why is he pouring up all of it? Then they will see my picture on it. I went and photocopied that story, put it in an envelope. Now we send emails and sent to more than 100 churches in Indiana. Saying, because I was raised in the church, Mom always said, the church is where you needed to go. Thinking, if people love Jesus and they see this story, we are going to have so much support from all the churches around. We'll start with Indiana and then we expand somewhere else. 100 mailings. One church called me. Reverend Bremer, bless his heart, he's since passed away, called me and said, what is your name? Twesigye Jackson Kaguri. Can't say the name. Say, call me Jackson. Said, I read what you sent here. I am interested to meet you and talk about your project. First Presbyterian Church of Indiana. That's the group that ended up forming Friends of Indiana, of Nyaka in Indiana. That's how Chris got involved as a volunteer. We still have good ties in Bloomington, Indiana because of that church. David Bremer took me to Bloomington North Rotary Club. People started writing checks after reading the story. A woman who was, I think at the time she was like 92 years old, Mary Rope out of Worthington, Indiana, wrote a check, sent it to me and said, when I hear from you, I'll send you another one. So I started, every time her letter came, I responded with a letter. Thank you, Mary. When I sent mine, hers came back. It was nice hearing from you. Here is another 100. She gave until she passed away in Worthington, Indiana. That newspaper coverage certified to people that what we are reading about is true. It's amazing how journalism is so trusted and how journalism, leave alone now, people just blog things they just think about. A journalist would make research, they went on, found the location, followed up, called newspapers in Uganda, said, yes, we've heard about that man and what he's doing. And here we go. So that was the holistic approach. That's how we graduated. And in Uganda, Matt, the people don't have graduations for P7. But given how we recruited our students, I said to our staff and to our volunteers, I want to buy these kids gowns because some of them remember have HIV/AIDS. We had already lost one. He was Meet Scovia in a school from my village, who died of HIV/AIDS. I said, the ones who are here, even if they never get another graduation, we are going to celebrate them. So 2008, Rob Ord and Carol Ord traveled with me. We went to Nyaka. We put on a party. Slaughtered goats, made a party, lined them up. There were the students who were graduating, there are young ones who were watching. People came again. We did a party. We put gowns on them. Professor Mondoka Gonyera, at the opening of Nyaka, said to students, I trust what you are going to get is good education. I want to make a commitment. When you are graduating P7, I will come back to your graduation. And I held him on that promise. He opened the school, graduation, he came back and shook hands with the students and told them once again, I cannot wait for you to graduate university. At the time of P7 graduation, he was the vice chancellor. The chancellor is the president of the country, President Yoweri Museveni. He was the vice chancellor, therefore the one who shakes hands with the students when they are graduating. And he said to them, I want to see you at Makerere graduating and all around the world. And indeed he did. Professor is still alive. We'll get a clip of Professor talking about Nyaka and we'll share it. Amazing man, thank you. Your PhD has been shared hundreds, thousands more times with others. We appreciate you.
Wow. So at that 2008 graduation, the first class of students graduates from primary school. We're 5 years into the school, 7 years into the start of the organization. The holistic approach based on the needs of your community has been addressed. And now looking back, we know that of all the programs, they've all sustained, but the grandmother program has expanded the biggest. And you already mentioned how it was part of the culture already for these grandmothers and elderly women in the community to take in vulnerable and orphan children that needed it. So you were working with the culture that's already happening. So what did Nyaka do then, and does Nyaka do today to help facilitate that process? Because grandmothers, already had the instincts and the culture to step up and care for these young children. And what did Nyaka start offering to accelerate and grow that and support the grandmothers in that process?
Very good, man. We need like a documentary going back. But ladies and gentlemen, you can go watch Cornerstone on YouTube, 40 minutes. We did this in 2015, but the relevance is still there. We need to get to Debbie. We need to get to Matt. We need to get to Matt's friend who did also Victor's. To do more snippets of documentaries so people can watch them. Wow, wow, wow. Grandmother's program has been the one expanded more than anything else. And this is why. Investing in children's education is a long-term investment. In between that, before that graduation, we also opened up another school. When I became CNN hero in 2012, there is a story that we can show you, a young man between those years had walked from Nyakeni 50 miles away to come look for education at Nyaka Primary School. And that's why I wore this purple shirt today. The uniform for children at Nyaka Primary School is purple and white. The colors are white, the shirts are purple. Kutamba is green and white. So we opened Kutamba because we didn't want more children to walk for days to come looking for education. The young man was also called Hillary. And people always say Hillary is a girl's name in the United States. Hillary Clinton, a good friend of Nyaka also. So Hillary walked all those miles, and as a result, we built a school there. But it happened also to be the area where my father was born and raised, in that area in Nyakeni, near Tsiz Hospital. And it also happened to be the constituents that Professor Mondo Kagonyera was representing in the parliament. So when I told him we're going to do that, he said again, I'll be there. I will support, and his home is nearby. So to build that school, I would go stay at Professor Mondo Kagonyera. Rob Old and Carol Old out of Aspen are the ones who raised all the money, 95,000 US dollars, to buy and start building. In fact, Carol Old even went ahead and found an architect, Matthew, out of San Francisco, from an organization that was called Architects for Humanity. And Matthew went with his expertise using local materials and built and designed the best school on the hill called Kutamba. Kutamba uses the same approach, holistic approach, surrounded with a clinic, library, grandmother programs, exactly replica. So now we have Nyaka, we have Kutamba, and also with grandmothers. So grandmothers program, now you can see for Hillary, the doctor, or Sarah, the lawyer, or Bonita, the nurse, or Hannington, the driver. Hannington is one who finished primary 7, went to driving school immediately 2 years. By the time our children were finishing Shaka Secondary School, he was a working man with money. He still talks about how he made a good decision because he wanted to take care of his grandmother immediately. And he did until grandmother and mother both passed away. So we now look at the investment is taking at least 12 to 18 years for return. But the grandmothers who are coming to meet and are housing our children have skills, soft and hard skills. For example, they knew how to make baskets. So we said, if you know how to make a basket, why don't I get you $20, buy materials, and when you buy materials, make baskets, and I need those baskets in the United States to give them as thank you when somebody makes a donation. So we will give you money, you make the baskets, or beads, or bracelets. After you make them, we will buy the material, the finished product from you. Always marketplaces, you have demand and supply. People are already innovative, they can survive. But whenever they made baskets, everyone knows how to make a basket in our village. So nobody buys a basket unless you make it for your own bananas or your own kalo eating. So we started seeing innovation, curiosity, hard work by these women. And I already knew that, but we also have patriarchal tendencies that men lead, men provide. And so women, even if they become innovative, they never got credit of their innovativeness. So one thing, 2006, I took 2 grandmothers from Nyaka Village Mat to Toronto, Canada. Pearson Airport. Mantrida, Freda, and my sister Christine, who accompanied them for English purposes. If you've ever seen people see miracles, 65 and 75-year-old woman from the village getting on a plane They said to me, these are all believers, and people who are believers will understand this. Our son Jackson, we always hear heaven. We went to heaven. The airplane took them above the crowds, and for them, that was heaven. Those two women, I brought them to Canada. They met Canadian grandmothers who were organized by Stephen Lewis Foundation. They met Alicia Keys. They sat and went in elevators and learned that they are not poor victims of poverty and HIV/AIDS. They are assets to society. Canadian grandmothers wanted to learn from our grandmothers from all over Africa. It was not just Nyaka grandmothers. How do you survive and operate after losing 9 children? And people still ask me that question. Here, somebody loses a child, one, or a husband, and they go into depression. They have to do therapy every week. They have to be watched for suicide. And here is a woman, poor, destitute. 9 children have died. 12 grandchildren are living with them in a 12 by 2, 12 by 14 type of housing. Matt, you've built these houses, you've seen them. I remember the one we built from a tent, which you did a GoFundMe and funded that entire house and went. So Canadian grandmothers said to me, we want to learn from these women. We want to help, but we need to hear what they need help with. Do you want school fees for your children? Do you want a house? Do you want another piece of clothes? How can we be of help? And these two grandmothers went back, spread the word, very happy with the passport, and we launched officially the grandmothers program. So we empowered grandmothers, the ones who were still had skill set to do something. We gave them money, a revolving fund, and earlier in the staff meeting, we were talking about this. Now, this is about like 500,000 US dollars revolving among 23,000 grandmothers who are raising 96,000 children. This is just 25 years. So grandmothers are in groups. They have a uniform. They have now they take care of their hair. We realize that an investment in a grandmother business makes a return within a year or less than a year, 3 months after she makes her basket, sells 3. Now she has money to buy soap. Now the clothes are clean. She sells another band, she buys a chair in the house. She sells another band, she has a mattress. Oh, now kids can go to school. Now she can even pay for a small school nearby. Since we are not building more schools, now she's paying a small school nearby for a grandchild. Young man, help me get all my materials, put them under the tree, and then go to school. The young man knows carrying these baskets is what pays their school fees. And many of these children are not related to these grandmothers. So we grew the program and saw returns faster. The schools are still going on, but we invested heavy in that program. And now you asked me the plans. We're expanding this program, the announcement I made at Clinton Global Initiative in September, to 146 districts by 2030. That's the whole nation of Uganda. We've partnered with Clinton Global Initiative. We partnered with New York Marathon. We've partnered with foundations like Imagode in Boston, Pilot House in Boston, Sigo Family Foundation, a huge cornerstone in our grandmothers program. Barry Sigo met me at Clinton Global Initiative and loved grandmothers program as a businessman. Said, I'm going to give you $10,000. If you use it right, I'll give you more. When I told him about grandmothers, he doubled. I met him in September. By December of 2008, 18, which year was it? 2016? We will have to look at that year. September, by December that year, he had given us more than 36,000 US dollars. And then Sigo Family Foundation started. Then Janice, the daughter, became a chair of our board. Board member first 3 years, 6 years of chairperson, and built a legacy within the organization that has continued to attract so much support, including the $1 million we got from Levers of Change as a result of being luminaries of the Single Family Foundation. In between, I think the first USA foundation that ended up giving us money was called what's its name? For children, it was a children organization out of Washington, D.C., started by Maya. And that opened up also. So now we have foundations, we have individuals. Of course, individual donors giving has been a cornerstone of Nyaka, and we've built something so beautiful. We have now partnered with the First Lady of Uganda, who started an organization for widows and orphans when the guerrilla war they started with her husband, His Excellency. And now we are working in Soloti, in northern Uganda, to bring a different culture. We partnered with an organization called MOA organization he was working with to open up in Mpiji grandmothers, and now we have perfected the model that can be replicated. In 2015, we also with Tabitha founded EDGA to address issues related to sexual and gender-based violence. Motera Global, which Tabitha runs, does it on one side globally. Nyaka continues to do it in every community. That's what the Victor's documentary that you worked on is out there also on YouTube. It's been marvelous. Hard work. Again, doubts always clicking. How are we going to be able to pay all 136 employees now? Are we going to be able to open the clinic and have the solar power funded by our friends who are from Washington, D.C.? Are we going to be able to fund all the computers in the secondary school? We built a secondary school. It became a vocational school. Well, we built staff housing. We introduced soccer for justice, another story that is tied into the community here that serves us, and the young man who passed away drowned, and we agreed our soccer program is going to be in his honor. Justice, a friend of yours. We have created something beautiful. But Matt, it would not be possible without individuals from all over the world, from schools, international schools, to churches in small towns, to priests that traveled to volunteer, to volunteers, to our hardworking staff members, past, present, and future, who have put in so much work. Mine was a vision. I'm still the CEO and founder, but I tell you, this has been a labor of love from so many people. We couldn't do it. I couldn't do it on my own, and I never saw it being something that would employ me full time. I left Michigan State in 2010. After working there, raising money, learning so much, to come and run this organization full time. Torre Dito made it possible, Dito partners. And over the years, partnerships with Opportunity Collaboration, partnerships with Core Foundation, conferences in Canada, Aero Shaw, 60 million girls. I mean, I can't mention everybody, but read the books. A School for My Village, Victory for My Village. And ladies and gentlemen, in our 25th year anniversary, we will release Drums Up Legacy for My Village, a book that will chronicle these success stories, will mourn the ones we have lost, celebrate the ones we have, and cheer up for the next 25 years of legacy and transformation from grassroots to the sky is the limit.